Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. In the echoing halls of a sleek high-rise in Atlanta, Janelle Rivers signed her name on a contract that would define her future. The marble was cold beneath her fingertips, and the city's cadence thrummed through floor-to-ceiling windows. Her fiancé, Langston Ford, sat across from her, tailored suit and sharp lines, the prenuptial agreement poised between them. His lawyer hovered like a shadow. Just business, Janelle, nothing personal. She studied the page that stated if they ever parted, she would leave with nothing. She signed. The terms were stark. Not the Midtown condominium, not a drop of the Ford legacy fragrance royalties, not even her own wedding band. Langston believed love was only as strong as the paperwork beneath it. Janelle believed in love and the possibility that a marriage might soften the edges crowding his ambition. She believed he might change. She was wrong. The first year of marriage unspooled like golden thread, at least from the outside, luminous and fragile. Janelle wore designer dresses to charity galas, standing at Langston's side with a practiced smile. She learned the subtle art of being unseen. The Ford family wealth was old as sweet Auburn Avenue's history, but their love was a museum specimen, polished, admired, and lifeless. At home, Janelle's laughter grew rare. Langston's attention belonged to Ford Enterprises and to the digital currency venture he had launched with money his grandfather had made in real estate. Even his silences felt transactional. His mother, Loretta, regarded Janelle as if she were an imposter at the dinner table, questions wrapped in honey and barbs. When Janelle offered ideas for the Ford Foundation's programs, Langston dismissed them as cute initiatives. At board dinners, her voice mattered only when she read from menus. He controlled their finances, tracked her spending, and reminded her, with a smile practiced for cameras, that she was fortunate to be a Ford. She learned to protect a quiet space inside herself. Janelle turned inward for solace, late-night books, whispered phone calls with her best friend, Keisha Turner, long walks through Piedmont Park beneath the city's glow. It was Keisha who planted the seed. "You are brilliant, Janelle," she said over margaritas at Busy Bee Cafe. "Take a few online classes. Keep your mind sharp. No one has to know." So Janelle did. She studied economics and real estate investment after midnight, the blue light of her laptop turning the kitchen into a small private classroom. Under that light, she taught herself the languages of business and code. She watched lectures, took notes, mapped balance sheets, and learned how markets breathe. She grew more capable, hidden behind a mask of compliance. Then, on a sticky July afternoon, everything shifted. A cream envelope arrived, postmarked from Chicago. Her mother's cousin, Aunt Celeste Harper, a reclusive artist known for wild parties and wilder investments, had died. The will was clear. Janelle, and only Janelle, inherited everything. The number staggered her. $30 million. Her hands trembled as she reread the letter in the quiet of the guest room. She locked the door and sat on the floor, the hum of the air conditioner loud as thunder. No one could know. Not Langston. Not even Keisha. Not yet. The money became a secret heartbeat. She opened accounts under old family names, her grandmother's maiden name, her great-grandfather's surname, layering security through discretion. Janelle retained a black woman attorney, Sabrina Blackwell, a Spelman College graduate whose reputation for meticulous strategy preceded her. Sabrina built shell companies and blind trusts with sober care. "Discretion is everything," Sabrina said. Janelle listened. She used her inheritance to buy crumbling shotgun houses on the West End, repairing and flipping them into affordable homes for Black women entrepreneurs. She invested in haircare technology in Birmingham and coding boot camps in Memphis. She signed with her other hand. By day, Janelle moved through Atlanta as Mrs. Ford. By night, she became a shadow rewriting the boundaries of her life. Meanwhile, Langston's empire began to splinter. The cryptocurrency he had once trumpeted as a vehicle for Black generational wealth buckled. Markets fell. Investors fled. Whispers grew about mismanagement. Janelle saw the signs: late-night phone calls, empty whiskey bottles hidden in a cabinet, stilted small talk stretched across a long dining table like thin cloth. Langston lashed out, blaming partners, junior staff, regulators, and finally Janelle. "You do not understand business," he snapped during a rare dinner together, anger simmering beneath a veneer of poise. Janelle met his gaze and smiled in a way that told him nothing. Behind the calm, she worked harder. She met quietly with young founders in co-working spaces and church basements, slipping seed money in brown envelopes and wiring starter funds through trusts that bore names no one could trace to her. She endowed scholarships at Spelman College and Morehouse College. She sponsored a small accelerator for Black women product designers. Always anonymous. The secrecy steadied her. She took nothing for herself. If Langston noticed her long absences, he did not say. In public, they posed for photographers, Atlanta's polished couple, all surface shine. In private, Janelle's every investment took her farther from him, until distance became its own kind of peace. She moved into the guest room and blamed his snoring. She stopped sharing meals. They became polite strangers. Months bled into years, and Janelle's quiet power became a steady drumbeat inside the city's veins. The ventures she backed flourished. A vegan soul food restaurant in the old Fourth Ward went viral on social media. A Black-owned financial technology application landed on a national Next 100 list. The city buzzed about the mysterious benefactor changing lives. Janelle watched from the margins, content to remain unseen. On a crisp autumn night, she stood on the penthouse balcony, the skyline glittering like a constellation of open windows. She felt a peace she had not known in years. The phone rang. Langston's voice was brittle. "We need to talk tomorrow." There was no warmth in it, only command. Janelle agreed, voice steady. She already knew what was coming. Storms announce themselves even when they are quiet. The next morning, Langston was waiting in the kitchen, jacket off, sleeves rolled, jaw tight. "Ford Enterprises is on the brink," he said. "I need you to talk to your people in Chicago. Ask them for help." For a moment, the irony felt almost absurd. Janelle sipped her coffee, buying time for restraint. "I cannot help you, Langston," she said gently. He slammed his fist on the table. "You are my wife. You owe me." She stood without hurry. "You made sure I owed you nothing." As he spiraled, Janelle's resolve hardened. She spent more time with her network, Black women engineers at Georgia Institute of Technology, lawyers launching social justice incubators, single mothers building wellness brands out of their kitchens. She became a rumor, a legend of quiet generosity. Only Keisha, now pregnant and glowing, guessed the truth. "You are moving differently," she whispered one night. Janelle only smiled, a private acknowledgement between women who had watched each other grow. Atlanta's annual Tech Forward Gala brought mayors and moguls, venture capitalists and journalists beneath one glass roof. Janelle almost skipped it, but Keisha insisted. "You earned the right to walk in the room without apology." Janelle wore a white silk jumpsuit, her hair in a halo of curls, and stepped into the venue as if she belonged, which she did. Langston was already there, holding court with city council members, charming as ever while the ground shifted beneath him. She kept to the edges. The program was winding down when the master of ceremonies strode to center stage, voice filling the hall. "Tonight we honor a mysterious benefactor. This year's $2 million gift to the Women in Technology Initiative is the largest we have ever received. Please welcome," he paused, as if savoring transformation, "Ms. Janelle Rivers Ford." The room went silent, stunned. Spotlights searched. Keisha squeezed Janelle's hand. Janelle stepped forward, heart pounding. The applause rose, thunderous and disbelieving. Faces blurred beneath the lights. Langston's eyes found hers, confusion, disbelief, fear. Loretta's jaw tightened, then fell slack. Janelle took the microphone. "Thank you," she said, voice clear. "This city raised me. I believe in investing in women, Black women, because we know how to turn scarcity into abundance. I am honored to help us build something that lasts." She left the stage to a tide of sound. Her secret had reshaped itself into a fact. After the gala, messages flooded her phone, journalists, founders, distant acquaintances. She ignored them, slipping out alone, heels clicking on the sidewalk. She did not return to the penthouse. She booked a room at a small hotel on Edgewood Avenue, ordered room service, and watched old sitcoms until drowsiness softened the edges of her thoughts. For the first time in years, she slept without waking. In the days that followed, Janelle prepared for the final act. She met with Sabrina in a sunlit office, reviewing documents one last time. The divorce petition was thick, the language precise. Sabrina looked over gold-rimmed glasses. "You could seek more. He owes you." Janelle shook her head. "I am not here for what he owes. I am here for what I owe myself." Respect moved like light across Sabrina's face. Janelle signed with a flourish that belonged to a woman remade. The morning she served Langston, she dressed simply, denim and pearls, hair in a low bun. He stood at the window when she entered the living room. The skyline spread like an argument he could not win. He turned, disbelief etched into his expression. "You are really leaving?" Janelle smiled, sadness and relief braided together. "Yes. I am done being invisible." He argued, raged, bargained. She listened without absorbing it, then handed him a slim folder, a final gift. Inside was a note. "You once told me everything was business. I am making this my business now. I ask for nothing from you, not even your name." She placed the keys on the console table and walked away before his words could find new ways to wound. The divorce moved cleanly. She left with her grandmother's quilt and a stack of books. Loretta tried to shame her in the sanctuary after Sunday service. Janelle let the whispers pass like whether she did not have to stand in. The tabloids strained to cast her as a gold digger, a wife who had failed a husband. The truth sharpened instead. Women sought her out, thanking her for scholarships, for seed money, for second chances. Janelle became a quiet force, her face seldom photographed, her fingerprints everywhere. The city learned her name without learning her footprint. She did not correct the myths. She invested her time elsewhere, into people whose ideas carried the future like a lantern through a dark hall. Months passed. Janelle rented a brownstone in Castleberry Hill, its brick warm to the touch in afternoon sun. She hung art by Black Southern painters along its walls. On Sundays, she hosted brunch for an orbit of friends, writers, architects, dancers, planners, dreamers. She listened more than she spoke. During the week, she traveled to Washington, District of Columbia, and to Oakland, advising women-owned startups and funding clinics in neighborhoods the world had trained itself not to see. In every city, she asked the same question: "How can I help?" She took back rows at pitch nights, clapped for teams that fumbled and recovered, wrote checks for founders whose eyes were bright with urgency. One rainy afternoon in Harlem, she toured a technology incubator she had helped build. Young women greeted her with the warmth of kin. Their prototypes hummed on tables. She saw flashes of herself in their determination and felt a kind of joy she had once believed was gone for good. She did not miss the old life, its empty parties and shallow praise. She missed only the sound of her own unguarded laughter, which returned to her in pieces, and then as something whole. Langston's name faded from the business pages. Ford Enterprises collapsed, creditors sorting the remains. He appeared less in magazines and more in hushed cautionary stories about hubris and speed. Sometimes Janelle saw him on television, face drawn, voice strained. He became a memory, useful as a warning, no longer a wound. The city changed around her, and she changed with it. The restaurant she funded expanded to a second location. The application she backed crossed 1 million users. A cohort of her scholars graduated and returned as mentors. The quiet network thrummed with life. A lender who had once ghosted a first-time founder called back to apologize and offered a fairer term sheet. Janelle took the call and then handed it to the young woman who had earned it. She did not need the credit. She needed the outcomes. Keisha's daughter was born in spring, her hair soft as a whisper. Janelle became an aunt by devotion, not by blood, and learned again how joy can live inside the small rituals of feeding a newborn, soothing a cry, and watching a friend become even more fully herself. At the christening reception, Keisha squeezed Janelle's hand and said, "You did it." Janelle answered, "We did it," because the truth was plural. None of it had been solitary work. The old prenuptial agreement lived now only as a reminder of a threshold, how a single signature can send a life down a narrow hall, and how another set of signatures can open the doors along that hall one by one. Janelle kept a copy of the divorce decree in a file labeled simply closed. She did not look at it. She did not need to. The proof of her choices stood in brick and code, payrolls and graduation photos, and the steady hum of kitchens where new recipes paid rent. When she returned to Chicago to visit Aunt Celeste's grave, she brought lilies and a small framed photo of the first home she had helped a young chef purchase. She thanked the woman who had believed in her from an eccentric distance. On the flight back to Atlanta, she read a grant application from a robotics team formed by girls whose parents worked double shifts. She wrote a note in the margin. Yes. Fund. Add mentorship travel. Ensure safety equipment. She slept after that with ease. Years later, at a gala for Black women in venture capital, a young founder asked Janelle for her secret. The ballroom glittered, and yet the question felt like a quiet room. Janelle smiled. Sometimes power arrives without volume, she said. Sometimes freedom is simply the ability to leave. The women at her table nodded, understanding landing between them like shared music. Janelle felt what used to be weight lift and settle into something lighter, something that made room for others to stand. She kept building, always forward, never turning her head to catalog the past for applause. Her name became synonymous with possibility. She learned to love the ordinary mechanics of sustaining an ecosystem, renewing insurance, upgrading servers, hiring good counsel, insisting on rest as a strategic choice. On Fridays, she walked the Beltline with Keisha, sipping tea and discussing childcare cooperatives, transit equity, and a new fellowship for mid-career founders who needed time more than they needed headlines. When an investigative article finally traced parts of her giving back to her original inheritance, Janelle did not deny it. She wrote a brief op-ed. Wealth is not virtue. It is opportunity. Accountability is the debt we owe to our communities. The city argued with itself for a week and then settled into a new acceptance. The story turned from secrecy to structure. Janelle met with elected officials about zoning that made room for affordability without hollowing out neighborhoods. Policy, she realized, is another kind of venture capital. On a summer evening, she returned to the Tech Forward Gala and stood in the wings as the master of ceremonies announced a new fund for girls in machine learning, endowed in perpetuity. The applause felt different this time, less astonishment, more recognition. She thought of the high rise where she had once signed away her claims to a life, and she thought of the small hotel room where she had first slept without fear. Between those two rooms stretched the bridge she had built herself. She went home to Castleberry Hill, opened the windows, and let Atlanta's night air roll through the rooms. On the kitchen counter lay a stack of letters from women she had never met. Thank yous written in careful penmanship, sketches of prototypes, invitations to ribbon cuttings. She read each one. She answered each one. She turned off the light and stood in the soft wash of the under-cabinet glow, remembering the woman who had studied balance sheets by that very light, deciding to become more than a shadow. In the morning, she walked south for coffee and watched a group of teenagers rehearse a step routine in the park, their syncopation proof that collaboration can be a kind of promise. She texted Keisha a photo and wrote, "Future board." Keisha replied with a heart and a laughing face. Janelle smiled at the screen and then at the city itself. Atlanta had once made her feel invisible. Now her name carried across it, not as an afterthought, but as a force, a through line, a steady hand shaping what comes next. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.